To watch and listen Altaf Hussein's historical and thought-provoking lectures, please like and subscribe our YouTube channel Revolutions with Altaf, and don't forget to press the bell icon.
This is Channel 4. Now, Dispatches looks at the precarious, sometimes violent state of Pakistan, and at the man who may hold the key to its future.
In Pakistan, the new government is less than a week old, but already it's under siege. Today, a transport strike has brought the entire country to a standstill. Filming throughout the recent elections, tonight's dispatch reveals that the key to the country's future may well lie not with the present Prime Minister, nor with Benazir Bhutto, nor any other figure known in the West, but with this man. To some, he is a violent demagogue. To others, the only true friend of the poor. Like him or loathe him, he is the Kingmaker of Karachi.
Midnight in Karachi. 5 years ago, this man was a taxi driver in Chicago. Now he calls himself the leader of the righteous. He's a power in the land. He could break the new government. He's Altaf Hussain, and his party is the Mahaja Qawmi movement, the MQM.
The MQM is a fascist organization. It came into being, it was brought into being, in fact, as a counter to the nationalist movement in Sindh, and it has a very violent image.
He has been created by circumstances. He is young, he is a very good speaker, he speaks well, and he can sway the masses.
My message is to serve the people. When I say serve the people, means not the 2%. 2% means the elite class, the rich class, the feudals. But serve the people means serve the people means serve all. All people belonging to lower middle class, working class, poor class, oppressed, suppressed, downtrodden people. Just to serve them.
Altaf Hussain presents himself as a servant, but in Karachi he's the master. And that makes him one of Pakistan's most powerful men. In Pakistan, the power is in the country, but the people are in the towns. Karachi is a city of 10 million, a cauldron of different tribes and ethnic groups. Once it was a small fishing village. Today it's the country's only seaport and the nation's commercial capital. It's one of the world's most dangerous cities. Soldiers man every main road junction. 3,000 have died here in fierce sectarian fights over the last 5 years. Karachi has spent much of this year under curfew. MQM's symbol, a kite, flies over the slums. It's Karachi's poverty that has fueled Altaf's rage. He condemns the rural rich who've shared power with the army for over 40 years. Both have failed the urban poor. The ED Foundation shows photographs of the cities lost and destitute, hoping that relatives will claim them. Its moving spirit has been called the Mother Teresa of Pakistan. He's Abdul Sattar Eidi. Products of neglect. But there can only be one Eidi. A lot more can be done, according to Altaf Hussain. The country's poor, he says, must seek a political solution to their problems.
If they want to solve their problem, if they want to remove poverty from their areas, so they have to work hard. They have to do themselves. They should not wait for the others that angels will come and solve their problems. No, angel will never come to solve their problem. Their problems can be solved by themselves. They should come out as MQM has proved. So they should send their own representative from their localities to the assemblies.
Muhammad Ali Jinnah's tomb is a reminder of the nation's founder and the country's original purpose, a homeland for Muslims, including the Mahajers or refugees from India, the fathers and mothers of today's MQM supporters. With partition in 1947, the bloodbath of sectarian slaughter left 1 million dead. The British had abandoned the idea of a united Indian subcontinent.
The film tells the story.
Instead, a separate Muslim state of Pakistan, divided into East and West, was created. East Pakistan was later to break away to become Bangladesh.
Meanwhile, they say it must already have...
The newly arrived immigrants found a country sharply divided into 4 distinct provinces, each fiercely proud of its own tribal traditions. Karachi today is a microcosm of those divisions, where the 4 main tribes compete with the Mahajers for jobs and survival. From the northwest frontier province, the Pathans. From Baluchistan, the Baluch. From the Punjab, Pakistan's most populous province, the Punjabis. And from Sindh, of which Karachi is the capital, the Sindhis. As the Mahajers arrived in Karachi, they soon took over the jobs and homes left by the Hindus. The Sindhis bitterly resented the immigrants, particularly when Urdu became the country's official language. The Mahajers resented the ethnic quota on job and educational opportunities. The MQM flag flying proudly over Karachi today is a legacy of earlier Mahajar grievances. By 1985, tension had boiled over into violence.
After partition, there was this great gap between the educated immigrants, whom we call Muhajirin now, and the local people. Local Sindhis were mostly rural people who were hoping to get education, to move into towns and so on, and they were expecting to get education also. So with the influx of the immigrants, these opportunities became very scarce for the local people. And very soon, in fact, you found that the most prestigious institutions in Sindh were taken over by the immigrant population, and locals were then forced into the second-rate establishments in smaller towns.
It is a known fact that it is we, the Mahajirs, who did all the struggle for the creation of Pakistan. And when we came in Pakistan, I mean, our forefathers, our ancestors who came in Pakistan, they built this country. I mean, and there was nothing much. I mean, in this country, I mean, there was just land, and there was just jungles, and there was nothing much. I mean, our ancestors did all the secretarial work, clerical work, government jobs, industry, and everything. But when the Pakistan started running, the policies of the government and the system of the government was, I mean, made such that, I mean, our due shares and rights were being denied.
These are the reasons: the biased treatment, the denial of the rights of Muhajirs forced me to do something for the betterment or for the achievement of the rights of Muhajirs.
The Dawn newspaper is the flagship of Pakistan's most influential publishing group. It's owned by the Haroon dynasty, always prominent in the political life of both Sindh province and the country.
Quite clearly, a large part of the MQM demand was to be the demand that they be considered a fifth nationality in this country, or even a sixth. Now, there is a serious debate about this proposition. The belief is this, that you cannot be a nationality in this country forming the nation of Pakistan unless you have an actual historical link to the territory that you are on. Now, this may sound a little like ethnic chauvinism, but this appears to be the general consensus of what you would call the sons of the soil. This is another ethnic phrase for those who say we were born here and our forefathers were born here. Quite naturally, this kind of situation creates an awkwardness for the children of migrants who came here in 1947.
MQM is not for division. MQM is for the unity of the all oppressed and suppressed people of Pakistan. As you know that we have supported the Sindhi people who were contesting not in Karachi, in the interior of Sindh, and a lot of Muhajirs, and many Muhajirs supported them. Or MQM supported Sindhis, MQM supported Pathan's candidate and Punjabi candidates. So we believe in the integrity, unity, and unity of the people.
The solid steel gates guarding Altaf's headquarters contradict the party's slogans, but they reflect the violence of Pakistan's politics today. The MQM has clear-cut lines of command and is famous for its iron discipline. It also has a reputation for terrorism, like a number of other political groups in Pakistan. It grew from an armed student movement founded by Altaf in the late 70s to defend Muhajirs against Islamic fundamentalists. Altaf is the first major Pakistani politician to come from a lower middle-class background. He knows that no Pakistani government can survive if Sindh degenerates into chaos, and he holds the key. Not surprisingly, he's now a marked man, surrounded by bodyguards day and night. Pakistani politics can be a fatal game. His followers call him the Holy One. His enemies say the MQM has played its full part in some of the bloodier ethnic battles of the last 5 years. Just 2 years ago, the country's military dictator, General Zia, was killed in a plane crash. His death paved the way for the return of Benazir Bhutto, daughter of the man he executed, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Benazir Bhutto and her Pakistan People's Party, the PPP, swept into power. For the MQM too, those 1988 elections were a triumph. In the first national elections they'd contested, they won control of Sindh's two major cities, Karachi and Hyderabad. Altaf's party entered into an uneasy pact with Benazir's PPP. Altaf is unique in his oratory. His power over massive party rallies attended by hundreds of thousands is frightening.
क्या कर सकती है? सब अपने मुंह बंद। रेडी 1 2 3। लाखों का मजमा और खामोशी नामुमकिन, तो ये वो लोग हैं जो नामुमकिन को मुमकिन करके दिखाते हैं।
The MQM didn't stay friends with Benazir for long. Only a year later, their alliance broke up, and they've been sworn enemies ever since. In May this year, police turned their guns on MQM supporters in Hyderabad. Altaf is sure where the blame lies.
तुमने मासूम औरतों का कत्ल किया, तुमने बच्चों को तुमने ज़िबा किया। आज अपने बच्चे को जरा सुनो माओ, मैं यही सोच रहा था जब मैं उस औरत से मिला मेरे भाइयों हैदराबाद में, उस बच्ची से जिसकी गोद में 3 माह की, दूसरे की 6 माह की बच्ची थी। मैं यही सोच रहा था कि आज बेनजीर की हुकूमत और इख्तिदार नहीं है, लेकिन बेनजीर फिर भी अपने बिलावल की सालगिरह मना के केक काटती है इस बच्चे का, और इस बच्ची की 6 माह की जो है, इसकी सालगिरह कौन मनाएगा? इसका बाप तो छीन लिया गया है, इसका बाप तो कत्ल कर दिया गया है, अब इसकी सालगिरह कौन मनाएगा? अब इस बच्ची की बेवा माँ जब अपने बच्चे की सालगिरह मनाने की सोचेगी तो उसका शौहर नहीं है, फिर किसकी तरफ देखेगी? बेनजीर तुम औरत नहीं हो, तुम औरत नहीं हो, तुम जालिम हो, तुम कातिल हो, तुम जुल्म की मलिका हो, कातिलों की रानी हो।
Benazir Bhutto, his one-time ally and now hated enemy, stands for everything that Altaf rejects. A member of her country's most famous political dynasty, she's definitely part of the despised 2% whose rule he wants to end. She and her family are constantly attended by Western journalists. Altaf scorns their obsession with the Bhuttos. Her view of Altaf's MQM is equally bitter. She has her own version of their party's rift.
The main thing was that they wanted people freed who were involved in terrorist crimes. It became very difficult for us. In the beginning they would say that these people are political workers. And because we were suspicious of the last regime, we tended to believe it. But then as time went on and lawlessness didn't cease and the people kept getting caught. For instance, the home of our labor leader was burnt. They said if you file a case against us, we'll leave the court. So people who were Urdu speaking, that is, settlers who were belonging to the PPP, they were either shot dead, their homes were burnt, they used to be kidnapped, tortured, and have MQM engraved in them. And if they wouldn't let us file a case, they'd say we'll break the court. So we were caught between the devil and the deep blue sea.
The MQM's withdrawal from the alliance fatally undermined her authority in Sindh, her own power base. It led directly to her dismissal as Prime Minister by the President 3 months ago. Although she champions the cause of the poor, her period in office disappointed her supporters. She seemed unable to escape the influence of her background, the vested interests that have ruled Pakistan until now. On election day, she prays at her father's tomb. She's never been reluctant to exploit her political heritage.
Democracy means for the people, by the people, and of the people. But here what happens? Everybody says that we are democratic. Benazir says we are democratic. Everyone says we are democratic. But you will see that one family has been coming since after partition means 1947. If their forefather has gone or has passed out, for example, have gone, their children, their sons, their nephews, their niece comes in power. So only few families have been ruling this country, and MQM wants to eliminate the rule of few families. If you see the case of Benazir Bhutto, if you see the case of any politician in Pakistan, either they belongs to capitalist class or the feudal class. Benazir Bhutto herself, a feudal lady, but she preaches about democracy. How can she be a democratic? Because she has a big land and so many farmers working in her land like a slaves, not like a human beings.
Up country Sindh, 200 miles north of Karachi. Here Bashir Ahmed Chandier's tenants, supporters and hangers-on bring their tributes and gifts. Like most people around here, he's a PPP man, one of Benazir's closest allies in the National Assembly. MQM's success has allowed feudal landlords like Chandier to become champions of the very people they have for so long exploited, the rural poor.
We are going to tell the people of Sindh that it is your landlords, it is your politicians. I mean, landlords and politicians are same in Sindh. It's not different. They are same. It is your politicians and landlords who are snatching your rights. They take money from government, from banks, loans and all that. And they don't spend a single penny for your betterment. They don't build a school for you. They don't build hospitals for you. They don't do anything. They just buy big pajiros, big bungalows in Islamabad, in Karachi and all that. They don't do anything good for you. And when you suffer, this landlord tells you that it is Muhajirs, they are taking everything. And we are going to tell them, no, we are not the same. We are not snatching anything from you. It is your politician, it is your landlord.
This is dacoit, bandit country, where it's dangerous to travel after dusk. Sindh is out of control. Kidnappings are a daily occurrence. All too predictably, Altaf points the finger.
Benazir Bhutto, the ministers of Benazir Bhutto and the workers of People's Party were involved in kidnapping. So People's Party was the party in Pakistan who introduced a new business in Pakistan, that is kidnapping. This is also a gift of Benazir Bhutto government.
But in the crossfire, it's hard to know who's to blame. Anyone can get a gun. In Benazir's village of Larkana, they're sold quite openly and legally. This one's on sale for $50. Banditry is part of rural Sindh's political culture. But who is to blame? Everyone has a theory.
All these landlords, they are the ones who patronize them because they can get anything done through these dacoits, creating that fear, that terror in the area. All right, if you don't do that, you will face this.
Who is behind the dacoits?
I think police. I believe police particularly.
Some people tell us that the landlords are behind the dacoits.
Maybe some, but I don't think so. The average is police. Again, I believe it's police.
And you've never been behind any
No, not
dacoit
at all.
movement?
Not at all.
Whatever Altaf may say about Benazir, her supporters aren't immune from the violence. Chandio's manager was lucky to survive a hail of bullets intended for his boss.
Armed dacoity has been sort of a traditional thing on the banks of the Indus, because you have the river Indus, which is surrounded on both sides by fairly thick jungle and very difficult terrain, which is always afforded an hideout for dacoits and armed robbers. Now, it is almost natural that this trend should move to the cities as well.
Karachi has spent much of this year in a state of near siege. In one recent weekend, more than 100 people were killed in gunfights. It's hard to draw the line between gangsterism and ethnic and political violence.
Most old Sindhi families in Karachi and most of the earlier settled families in Karachi are apprehensive about the MQM. I don't think the apprehension consists so much in the attempt by the MQM to tilt the urban-ethnic balance, as much as a tendency for the MQM, the PPP, and other ruling parties within this province to fall back on the politics of violence.
It certainly sprang up overnight, fully armed, and has been responsible ever since I think 86 or so, for urban violence, for ethnic violence, for the state of the cities that you see now, state of Karachi and Hyderabad, where there's gang warfare.
Although the army is always on the streets of Karachi, violent crime continues to increase. In the week running up to the recent elections, there were 25 reported kidnappings. New varieties of cruelty proliferate, including torture and sniping. The security forces are hamstrung by police corruption and a cumbersome judicial process. The accusation that the MQM is behind the recent wave of terror.
This is also a negative propaganda launched by the feudals or the vested interest, because we belongs to poor class and lower middle class and middle class people. That's why these forces who have been coming in power since after partition, as I told you, they are the main culprits who are raising such kind of negative propaganda against MQM. MQM is peace-loving party. MQM believes in non-violence. MQM doesn't believe in violence.
But the MQM's chairman takes a different view. For him, violence is acceptable in a just cause.
When you start any struggle, it is a common phenomena throughout the world. In the beginning, when any organization who starts a struggle, the opponent group, first they try to crush by force. Before this, they start doing propaganda against that organization, like you see in South Africa, and Mr. Mandela got a lot of problem. He being jailed for such a long years, like 26, 27 years, and he was termed as as a terrorist. And like PLO, it is being considered as a terrorist organizations, like in Kashmir. It's a common phenomenon. It's nothing new. If people called or people alleged as a terrorist or organization, but when you proved that you are fighting your just right, and when you pass through these all phases, then you are being accepted as an organization.
Here, violence breeds violence. One night, intruders disturbed Fozia Kuro and her husband.
He went through our door to the kids' room. In the meantime, I just opened my drawer where I keep my loaded gun, for the last couple of years. Removed it from the bag, followed him very quickly, and I couldn't see that they had a gun on my husband's stomach, which is why I was very brave and I ran very quickly and came in behind him like that, and I saw this very tall face over my husband's head. So he was a very tall man. We had eye contact. I aimed between his eyes over my husband's head and pulled the trigger.
In Karachi's climate of fear, Fawzia's action made her a heroine.
Since that night, personally, I carry a gun on me in a belt in the daytime. I don't leave it in a handbag in the car or anywhere else. I feel very safe when it's touching me. And in the night, we have guns all over the room. One under the bed, two on either sides of me and my husband, one under my children's bed. It's quite ridiculous, but that's how we live. The bedrooms are upstairs. They're all quite secure now because we put a lot of iron grills. There are iron grill doors, iron grill walls. It's like living like rats, actually.
Karachi's violence has caused a dramatic drop in investment. There's been a mass exodus of industry to the calmer climate of the Punjab.
You cannot have economic development unless you have stable law and order conditions. Unless Pakistan rectifies the law and order situation in Sindh, stable economic development in Pakistan is not possible.
In the recent election, Benazir suffered a stunning defeat in a ballot which she claims was rigged. Her opponents say she was responsible for the growth of violence, but there's not much chance that her going will lessen it. The question, is this a turning point for Pakistan's politics and the end of dynastic government? She now has only bitterness against the president she herself confirmed in office, President Ishaq Khan.
My heart really cries out for Pakistan, that this opportunity that it had for freedom, for human dignity, that opportunity has evaporated because I made the mistake and my party made the mistake of choosing Mr. Ishaq as the president. We thought he would build bridges with the military. We thought he'd build bridges with the IGI. We thought he'd build bridges with Pakistan's key allies. But instead, he tried to alienate them all. And as a consequence of our having named him, he manipulated the situation to preside over the demise of a short-lived democratic era.
But the MQM sees its election triumph as the beginning of a new democratic era. It's now the biggest party in the government of Sindh and has just been given two key national ministerial posts. Altaf himself did not seek election. He's the undisputed and unelected master of the show, accountable to no one.
A party leader should keep him away from contesting in the election because he can keep his eye on other elected members.
Islamabad, which replaced Karachi as the nation's capital a quarter of a century ago, is the seat of Pakistan's political power. The new Prime Minister is Nawaz Sharif on the right. Unlike the previous four Prime Ministers, he is not a Sindhi landowner. He's a Punjabi industrialist. MQM are now partners with strange bedfellows. One is the ex-Prime Minister, a feudal Sindhi. He shares the common aim of keeping Benazir out, and he's not about to risk offending Altaf.
He has been described to us as, on the one hand, the key to the future. On the other hand, he has been described as a dangerous demagogue.
Well, time will prove which way he swings.
Then God!
The army has always been the power behind the scenes of Pakistan's government. For 23 of the country's 43 years, there has been military rule. Everybody agrees that civilian government is only possible with the army's blessing. Many suspect that General Zia fostered the MQM in the first place to counter Sindhi nationalism. It's significant that Altaf is well disposed towards the army.
If you see the election 88 results and if you see the election 1990, army has played its neutral role.
One cause of Benazir's downfall was the army's disenchantment.
5 rounds, अपने target पर, अपने वक्त में, grouping, fire.
For the MQM, it is reassuring to know that the military establishment seems to welcome the party's new respectability.
MQM is for Pakistan. They are not a terrorist organization. Certain excesses have been done, their demands have not been met, and they thought to create this MQM to see their demands to certain extent being met. That was the whole background where this MQM came into existence. And MQM is, as I said, they are patriotic and they are for Pakistan. Where can they go? Because this is their country. They chose to come here all the way from India. They can't go anywhere. And if they have to live here, they have to live with a certain amount of honor and dignity. And if they are not provided that honor and dignity, then they have to react.
Back in Karachi, the chief minister, a rural Sindhi, comes to visit Altaf, not the other way round. But Altaf's commitment to his new allies may not last. If his bid to represent all urban people fails, he may take a different route. He could demand a new province for Mahajers. Sindh would have to split, and the unity of Pakistan would be at stake. Altaf will not be an easy partner for the chief minister.
Then I am answerable to the public, to my friends who have supported me, and we are answerable to Parliament, Provincial Assembly, and to the people.
In Pakistan, violent death has frequently changed the course of its history. If Altaf survives, he is a man to watch. Ask his supporters in Karachi and Hyderabad. For that matter, ask the landlords of Sindh. They've every reason to fear him.
I will be happy when I'll see the rule of 98% people in Pakistan. I will happy at that time when I'll see the rule of 98%. Means the rule of true people, the rule of working class people, the rule of middle class people, the rule of true patriotic Pakistanis in Pakistan government. Then I will be happy.
अल्ताफ हुसैन हमारा